Hello, everyone. Michael Damiani from Easy Allies here. I am back from the Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail Media Tour.
Okay.
Kept
Can
that
y'all hear
poker
this?
face up pretty well, didn't I? Anyway, this is
Is this
the
quiet?
interview I did with director and producer Naoki Yoshida for Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail.
good.
Now, a few things real quick before we get into the questions. Unlike previous interviews I've done,
Yeah, I
with
haven't
Naoki
seen any of Xeno's coverage, so I'd like to see some of that too.
Yoshida and the team, I was not allowed to film this interview. So unfortunately, you will not see Naoki Yoshida during these answers. However, I was allowed to record the audio, so you'll be hearing the audio excerpts from this interview. I'm a little bummed out because you do kind of miss out on some of his reactions, especially the one of the questions. He just does the slouched over like, oh, what?
You can just reenact it.
Reaction.
That's okay.
So I do apologize, but again, I believe it was because of like just it was a timing thing that they were everything was just like so busy and they were trying to fit in as many interviews as they could. So they just didn't want to do a setup, you know, let people go in, set up their cameras and then break down again. It would have just meant less time for everyone because that's the other big thing. We only had 30 minutes this time around. Past times we've had more time, like around 45, 50 minutes. So I was only able to ask 3 questions. And again, this was a paired interview.
That's crazy because some people got 45, but I guess they were really crunched at the end.
This has generally been the case every time I've interviewed him, except one time. This is just going to be my questions. Generally, when you do interviews, unless they are designated a round table, you generally are only supposed to present your questions unless you get permission from the other person. Now, I didn't even bother to ask just because I really only was focusing on my questions. However, those questions will be in the other interviews. There are plenty of interviews that are going to be hitting today and in the coming days, so you can go check those out as well. But these are just the 3 questions I asked Naoki Yoshida. And I had way more questions I wanted to ask.
Please tell me the
I want to preface this by saying I really apologize to the PvP community. I got one question in, but there was at least 2 others I wanted to 2 other questions I wanted to ask, and it just wasn't in the cards. Like, hopefully someday we get to just have a sit down and do
how it is sometimes.
a PvP interview.
You don't
with
get to
Naoki
ask
Yoshida
everything you
or someone
wanted.
from the PvP team. But I do think this answer, while it isn't necessarily the answer you're looking for the question I asked, there is a bit of information in this that makes me optimistic about the future of PvP. So without further ado, here's the interview. Please enjoy.
Interview, let's go.
First question is, what is the status of the Borderland Ruins secure map in Frontline and Astragallos and Rival Wings? Why do you take away PvP maps when you could just leave them in until a revision is ready, like you did with the Shatter
Wow, I love how blunt this question is.
map in Frontline?
This is great. Why do you take away the map when you could just leave it in, Yoshi-P?
それぞれに明確な、意図があって、フロントラインの方は、そのマップイコール今ルールになっているので、そのルールの、メンテナンスが今手が回ってない状態なので、ものすごくバランスが悪い状態でマップを開けることになってしまうので、それを避けたいっていうのがまず一つ。で、もう一つライバルウィングスの方は、PVP のジョブアクションっていうのをすべて、6.0 のタイミングで一新して、
Do we have Japanese interviews like this?
も実装したんですけど、そのスキルセットで、遊ぶにはこちらもバランスメンテナンスっていうのはどうしても行えてない今状態なので、その分だけこのバランスを終わるまでクローズしているという答えになります。で、じゃあいつやるんだって今 PVP プレイヤーの方から言われてるんですけど、
If they have left in English like we did live in the Japanese.
いろんなメンテナンス、それからバランス調整、マップの作り直しみたいなことをやろうと思っているので、ぜひ 7.1 以降をちょっと期待していただけると嬉しいです。
So there are clear reasons and intentions behind why we do that with the different maps. So first of all, with Frontline, whenever we have a map available, that kind of equates to what the game rules are for that set. And I'm afraid we don't have enough resources to maintain those maps. And so we want to sort of avoid a situation where we have that sort of unbalanced situation or like an unbalanced map.
You don't have the resources to maintain the maps. What? Okay. That's so crazy. What?
And we want, so that's why we have taken away that map. And then in terms of Rival Wings, with patch 6.0 or the expansion 6.0 Endwalker, we have done major adjustments to the job actions in PvP and also released Crystal Conflict. So we don't have the resources to rebalance Rival Wings to match those changes that we made with Endwalker. So that's why we've closed that as well.
Because the PvP budget is really, really, really tiny. That's sad. Oh my god.
So that we can concentrate on Crystal Conflict. So with that said, I'm sure a lot of players might be wondering, so when will we be updating PvP content? That will probably start with 7.1. We are hoping to increase the staff members that are working on the PvP content so that we can go do the maintenance.
Literally, they need to pay more people to help. They just do not have the
required. Make sure that we are rebalancing the game and then also updating any maps that require it. So we might have to make you wait, but if you could look forward to updates that are going to be made starting 7.1 and beyond.
Oh my god.
Final Fantasy XIV is available on many different platforms.
I am not surprised, and yet it's still kind of shocking to hear, right? That it's like, it feels like small indie company, right? They don't have the, but if I feel like personally, I feel like Crystalline Conflict is a W. I love Crystalline Conflict. I do play it all the time. I've been playing it recently to level my Black Mage. As you can see, that's the reason I'm on Black Mage right now. And it's great. But I feel like they need to decide, do we want to support PvP in this game or not? And if you want to support PvP in an MMO, you need a dedicated MMO team. That this is what those people work on. They work on PvP. That's their whole job. They have the PvP segment of the team, and their whole job is coming up with the PvP content, listening to the feedback from the PvP community, having a PvP community representative that only deals with PvP, and have that department. That's their job. It's their whole, like, they don't have to do anything else. I really feel like that's what's required. Otherwise, you just kind of be, you have this great idea, but then it might not get the support it needs, and it just kind of can fizzle out. And that's what I'm concerned is going to happen with the PvP in this game, even after the excellent changes that it's received in Endwalker.
But it still has not come to Switch.
But it costs money.
Given the Switch successor was finally acknowledged.
What is going on? Why can't FF14 get the money that it needs
by Nintendo? And given Switch's enormous success,
from Square Enix,
are you considering bringing Final Fantasy XIV to this new platform?
まずこれ僕は本当10年以上ずっと言ってるんですけど、僕の夢というか目標はありとあらゆるプラットフォームでファイナルファンタジー14がデバイスに関わらず遊べるようになり、かつそこから、サーバーにアクセスしている人たちが同じ世界にログインして入れることっていうのをすごい大事にここまでやってきて、本当に長年、フィル・スペンサーさんと一緒に努力をしてきましたけど、ようやくつい先日それが XBOX でも叶ったので、当然任天堂プラットフォームさんの方でもファイナルファンタジー14が遊べるようにっていうのは努力をしていきたいですし、また今回ね XBOX 長い時間かかりましたけど、ちゃんとそれが叶えられたので、きっといつか叶うんじゃないかなと思って。
We don't need more consoles to hold back development. I completely agree with you.
していけたらなと思ってます。
So my dream or goal for more than 10 years at this point is for players to be able to play Final Fantasy XIV regardless of device and be able to access the servers to go in and access the same world. And so I bring up Phil Spencer as an example.
Well, why don't we start with being able to access the same characters on the same computer, but on Steam and on the Windows version. Okay, like, I feel like maybe before we try to shoot for the moon, we should try to shoot, like, down the street first, maybe? Okay? I not to be a smartass or anything, but it's ridiculous that I cannot just have the game, use the game on Steam and access my same character. To me, that seems like a bigger problem than the fact I can't play it on a Switch yet.
example, but we've been talking for years to bring the game on the Xbox platform. And so, of course, we would love to have our title available on the Nintendo platform, and we do want to continue our efforts on it. But it did take a lot of time. With Xbox, we have literally talked
need
for
Gaben up
years.
here next.
And it's
I want to see Gaben on stage at the
now
next
finally
Fest.
coming to fruition. So again, we will try our best and continue to work hard at it and continue our efforts. But yeah, eventually it would be cool. Something that we would love to sort of explore and make a reality one day.
Back at FanFest,
Okay, next
asked about the
question.
possibility of a cross data center duty finder for each region. Has there
Oh man, I think everybody asked Yoshi-P this question. I think I've seen Yoshi-P be asked this question about 1,000 times.
been any developments on this front?
Because
And is there any possibility of a cross data center party finder
Yes.
for each region?
oh look at that. You even know. This is the question at the beginning. He's like, oh, there was this one question I asked where Yoshi-P was like, oh. That's why you put a picture of him, because you know this is the 5 millionth time he's been asked about something he cannot do at all.
もちろん検証というか検討はしてますけど、そもそも
Hey,
物理に存在している
Yoshi-P,
データセンターを
We can't.
結ぶっていう
We
こ
all
と
go to
は、
Ether?
このデータセンターの上にもう一個
Yeah,
巨大な管理サーバーというか仕組みが必要だというのは多分分かると思うんですね。で、これを正直ベースで今作ろうとした場合に、やっぱり2年から3年かかるっていうのが
It's a problem,
正直今の状態になってます。
We want-
ただ、
That's why I think it was it the Shenpai interview where it was the last interview that Yoshi-P had, and they asked him this question. And Yoshi-P, after being asked this question 5 million times, he's like, well, you know, the easiest way would be to just turn off the data center travel. Could just turn the whole thing off. And that's when we were like, oh no, just kidding, it's fine.
当然それだけの期間をかけて作ったとしても、なんていうの、費用対効果として本当にいいかどうかわからないので、もう一つアイデアをここに含めることで、なんだろう、同じような機能なんだけ
He's
ど、
ready to just turn it
多
off
正直にそ
now
のデータ
because
セン
we're
ターをつないだ
complaining
そ
too
のサーバー
much.
を作るみたいなことじゃないやり方をなんとか実現できないかっていうのを今検討している最中です。ただ今みんな 7.0 のマスアップで忙しいので、一旦それのディスカッションを止めていて、7.0 がリリースできた後でまた再開するので、もうちょっと気長に待っていただけると、ちなみに本当にね、2、3年かかっちゃうようなレベルのことなので、ファンフェスで聞いたからそろそろどうよって言われるとちょっと心が
He's
痛い
gonna
です。
say,
We are continuing our testing and investigation on the possibility, but if you would imagine, we have physical data centers that house our different worlds, and so in order for us to create a system that matches between these physical data centers, we would require another data center that kind of manages the matching systems, which means, to be quite frank, will take at least 2 to 3 years to build. And so, but that at the same time, is it worth the investment to create?
so you need one data center to rule them all, right? Yeah. You need one data center, the one data center to rule them all, to manage all this information between all the different data centers. Okay. So maybe that's something that we could put the resources into instead of adding an extra 4 servers to Dynamite States. I apologize, that's a smart ass thing for me to say.
Something like that with the
That's not fair, because they have already had those plans in the works for a long time. And you know, I don't understand why they make the decisions that they do, but I'm sure that they make the decisions based on information that I, as a player, don't have. You know, it's easy to sit here and criticize, but I'm just saying that
amount of time and financial resources, we may not be able to get an optimal ROI on
no.
that. So we're also trying to
return on investment. Okay, so they don't know if it's going to be worth it, because you could just travel to the data center where everyone is, which is what everyone's doing. Okay.
investigate ideas. Is there a solution that would allow for us to kind of simulate that sort of system? We don't necessarily have to build another server that would connect the different physical data centers. So that is the current status. Like
You said it's way easier to create a few new servers than a brand new concept. Yes. Large part of the reason for a lack of content on Dynamis is that it's only 4 worlds, not the number of players per world. What? Really?
So considering options
Do you think that them adding the new worlds to Dynamis is going? This is a separate issue
for that, but not unfortunately, we are trying to focus on finishing 7.0 and
starting from scratch will take years.
Completing the master build for that, and so we have kind of halted discussions for the time being. So once we are able to release 7.0, we will resume the discussions and considerations again. So if you could if we could have a little bit more of your patience on this. Again, honestly speaking, it will literally take at least 2 to 3 years to build something like that. So being asked, it's been a while since Fan Festival, how's the progress? You know, it's kind of, it weighs a little heavy on my heart.
Well, yes. You know, I am just trying to do my best to keep in mind that devs, you know, they're doing their best with the resources that they have. And what's really crazy about this interview is this feeling, especially with this first question, that it feels like they're on this shoestring budget. He's like, why did you take out this map when you could have left it in? And he literally says, because we don't have the resources. Like, maybe in 7.1 we can hire more people. I'm like, what? Isn't this like one of the biggest MMOs in the entire world? Isn't this like one of the top 3, top 2, top number 1 MMO that exists on planet Earth right now? Led by Square Enix, which is one of the biggest companies. But why is it always like this? I will say that with Dawntrail is probably the first time where I personally felt like we got a budget increase. It's the first time I actually felt like that. I've been playing for a while, and it has always felt like it was we're constantly having to worry about the resources and the budget. But with Dawntrail, with all the stuff that we're getting and all the stuff that's been promised, it's the first time where I actually felt like, oh my God, we got money. It feels like the game got money and is using the money on the game now. That's a good thing. But it's still kind of jarring when you hear things like that. Okay, next up. It's another snippet from PC Gamer here. Oh, right. Maybe the budget. Wait, are you suggesting that the problems with the budget could be related to the problems that people have with giving them money? I mean, I don't know how those things could be connected, but it's a good theory that people really struggle to give them money, and that's why they don't have the money that they need. But I don't know. It's complex to connect those things. It's a little complex to put it together. I feel like pushes the money from FFXIV like every other project. I do feel like that. Yeah.